host, Phil, and as always, with me, my trusty co host, the best, the fastest researcher in the West. Camille, how are you doing?
Good, good. Well, still sinuses. I apologize to everybody with my voice and my nasally and all that. How are you?
Good, which is weird because it's kind of been like wet. Doesn't that usually
It's
go
been
against
really
in
windy.
allergies?
It's like it's been constant wind, not
Oh, okay.
as strong, but I swear every day it's windy. And I live in I have so much vegetation. I live in an older neighborhood with a lot of open land, and I have massive trees on my property, all around my property. And so it's just like
Mhm.
you open a door or window, it's all over for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm
Um,
keeping Claritin in business. This is not a Claritin supported podcast,
we
but
are not sponsored by Claritin, nor I don't think we'd ever take Claritin's money. Um, Yeah, we got a lot to cover tonight. Busy episode. We actually were just talking about how we had to cut some stuff from out of the episode because we had so much stuff to cover. If you haven't, we had a big guest on last week. Grant Cardone came on for 10X California to talk all about that. Great conversation with him. A whole hour long podcast is up on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, all that stuff. Um, yeah, we got a lot to get into tonight. Newsom, the Danes want to buy California. Maybe that would be interesting. Uh, Also, the wildfire recoveries are his salary that he was supposed to make. And the Latino Caucus won't allow Latino Republicans in their own caucus. And we're going to get to that. We have breaking news literally like an hour before the show started. But before we get started, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review, comment. All that stuff helps with the algorithm before we get started. All right. We're going to hop into our first topic of the night, which is our cringe moment of the week. And Camille, did you know that Democrats are now the party? We always knew they were the party of big government spending, but did you know they are now the party of big fraudulent government spending? Because that's what they're putting themselves out as. Did you know that?
yeah, actually, I did know that. They
Okay.
just now discovered it, but I think we've known it for years.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the Democrats absolutely lose the argument and the point of the whole Doge thing. Because they just look absolutely horrible. I don't know if this was like they planned it to look this bad in terms of like, did the Trump team plan to make them look this bad? I think Democrats just fell into the trap and made themselves look really bad. So we're gonna
They're
walk.
still like mourning their loss of Harris losing for presidency, and
Yeah,
I feel like they're just like not emotionally recovered, and so these
no,
things that they're doing right now are not necessarily their full effort. They didn't put their full logical thoughts into it. They're just like emotionally wounded, and it's obvious.
yeah, they're going back to the whole resistance hate Trump thing. But as we saw in a poll from CBS, that's not working because he's actually above water. 53% of Americans are approving of Trump and what he's doing thus far. So not making a dent here. But let's listen to some cringy Democrats protesting Doge, exposing a lot of fraudulent spending. And I apologize to everyone already. I'm going to fair warning, if you have headphones on, you might want to tick it back a couple notches because some of these get a little loud and a little abrasive. So I apologize in advance. This is fair warning, last chance. So
In the building behind me, Elon Musk is seizing power from the American people. You understand what democracy looks like? This ain't it.
We don't pledge allegiance to the billionaires. We don't pledge allegiance to Elon Musk. We don't pledge allegiance to the creepy 22-year-olds working for Elon Musk.
We will not take this. We will fight back. Elon Musk is a Nazi Nepo baby. Hands off our data, hands off our tax refunds, hands off our Social Security checks, hands off our Constitution, hands off our democracy, hands off.
We will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest.
Wow. Okay. It's
I,
I hate that. I hate that
I've
hat there.
never been so unconvinced of something in my entire life. Like, if you want to motivate me,
No, getting a 102-year-old Chuck Schumer up there to chant, it's not selling with the American people. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think the American people are buying it. It's just so weird, and I keep going over it again in my head. Like, usually Democrats are better at unified messaging and strategy, or at least they were for the Obama years and all that.
because
But
all their US aid funds went to like the organization of it.
maybe, and they're all
And now
cut
they
off from
now they
their.
had to come up with this on their own with uh no budget for it.
And I mean, if you look at that group of people who are up there, they're all like octogenarians at this point. So they all remember like the 1960 civil rights marches. And I feel like that's their default of like, what are we gonna do? Let's protest like it's civil rights in 1960s. And it's like you're out here protesting that there are people going through the government and finding out what we are spending our money or wasting our tax dollars on, and you're protesting that, which
Right.
there is a way that you could, and I'm just playing devil's advocate for the Democrats here. There was a way you could have approached this. You could have come to the table and been like, you know what? I think, yeah, there's some stuff there that maybe, we got a little ahead of ourselves, but there's definitely some important missions that USAID really funds, and we want to protect those. But let's work together to save tax dollars and get rid of the stuff that we don't need anymore, is not in American. Fine. Okay. You've conceded that there are some things that we should get rid of. There are some things that we're wasting money on, but there is important goals. And like, but the problem is you've gone ahead and just said, we're defending all of it. We
Right.
don't care if it's
Right.
$50 million worth of condoms or millions of dollars for a gender studies play in Australia or something like that. Like, it's the National Pillow Fluffing Institute or something like that. It's like, that's what you're defending. And they've backed into this really bad political corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I know our cringeable but of the week is supposed to be usually like kind of funny, lighthearted, entertaining, but often we break these down, and I actually do want to further discuss this one because okay, you have a wife. You
Mhm.
guys even recently, somewhat recently moved, and you probably, well, no, I know for a fact because you were talking about it. You were like going through all your stuff as you moved of what do we want to take with us? What are we donating? What are we throwing out? So like people do spring cleaning, whatever, you're organizing your house and you
Mhm.
do the piles of like, okay, this is trash. This is no good for anybody. This I want to keep. Let's set this aside. And do I want to keep this or do I want to donate this? And this is like how it should be with the you said. How do you say it? Do you say you said USAID, USAID, like whatever? I say USAID, but I think you
I
said
thought it was US aid, and then Marco Rubio was calling it USAID, and I'm like, okay, well, if he's
okay.
saying USAID, then I imagine that's what it's called.
So all right. So that's whatever. That's what we're talking about. So when you're cleaning house, yeah, you do that. Like you're like, this is trash.
Mhm.
Just we're done with it. It needs to go away. Okay, now this we need to look at it. Do we keep this or not? And like that's what Doge is doing and should be doing. And I feel like did Elizabeth Warren like look at her notes like she forgot? It looked like she was like, we will not blah blah, and then she like looks down and is like Elon Musk, like she like forgot his name. But then the 22-year-old comment, the 22-year-old creepy guy, that is
Mhm.
okay.
Like,
First
why
of
are
all,
we picking on the 22-year-olds?
yeah, what
It's
like that, and then do they even know who these people actually are, or are they we just calling them creepy for the sake of calling them creepy? And there's brilliant 22-year-olds out there. Not all of them are brilliant, but there's plenty that are. And are, we're sending 18-year-olds to war to fight for us.
mhm.
So I don't think that they even have a leg to stand on when they want to bring up age. These are the
Yeah.
people that are like, we need to fight all the wars and we need to send our, our 18, 19, 20 year old. So are all those creepy guys like that was just like, that's offensive. That was rude. That was wrong.
One hypocritical thing that I was thinking about is they keep talking about the 22-year-olds and about how they're too young to be looking at this information, right? Like they're too young to be doing this job. But this is also the party that wants to lower the voting age to 16. So which
Right.
is it? 22 is too young to be like looking at government data, but 16 is fine to be electing representatives and senators and all that in the president of the United States. So where is it, Democrats? Are 16-year-olds, mentally developed enough to choose the leader of the free world in Congress, or is 22 too young? Like you got to pick a side here.
Right.
Which is it? You don't
Right.
like young people, and it comes off as like these young whippersnappers in here with their AI and their computers and their iPhones, and they're looking through the numbers and stuff, and they're creepy. And it's like, also,
How did
can
creepy get thrown in there?
yeah, and can we just? I don't know if Chris Murphy is at this point. I'm going to put good money on it. Call it now. It's 2025, February of 2025. Chris Murphy is going to run for president. He's been out there and about running his mouth on literally every news station, and they've been propping him up like crazy. So, um, mark it down. I'm not going to say he's going to be the nominee, but I will say that come 2027, he will announce that he's running for president. Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, this
Chris
guy.
Murphy of Connecticut. And come back here. So when he announces, we'll come back to episode 296, whatever episode we're on at that point.
What is the date?
The date is
11th.
February 11, 2025.
11th.
I'm going to say it right now. Chris Murphy's running for president. But they've looked horrible, and I enjoy watching the meltdown and people who are defending it, like, oh, it's a negligible amount. Like I don't know why you're making such a big deal. It's only like $5 million. And it's like, okay, well, if I underpay my taxes to the IRS and they're like, well, you underpaid by $1,000, I can be like, that's $1,000. It's a negligible amount, really. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, are we really talking about that much money? All around, I don't know if Trump's team planned on it being this good in terms of how bad the optics are, but it has definitely worked out in their favor.
I swear half of them didn't even know what they were protesting. They were just
No, I think
they were like, we need bodies.
no. And I like that there was a video of them chasing Elizabeth Warren, asking her about like how much money she's made, and like she wouldn't answer any questions. She literally was running. Like they caught her and they were chasing her through Congress. They're like, how much money are you worth? You're worth like $12 million. And she's like, she wouldn't answer, and she's just started running away.
West. Just running.
Just shuffling away. All right. Now on to California stories. So in perfect timing by Gavin Newsom, after the fact, title of this episode is Too Little Too Late, he issued an executive order about wildfire prevention. Now, I was reading this, and I don't know if you have sort of the same feeling that I do. I'm not really sure this does anything. Like, I was confused about what this really does. And I mean, I've got the article in front of me. I feel like I've read it 3 times. I'm like, I'm not really sure what this is supposed to do to fix or to help wildfire prevention. I don't know. Did you get that sense too of like, I don't know what this
sure
says?
you're going to go through parts of the article, but I think it was even the article, actually, they summed it up at the end where they were like, it's all talk and no action, which is like, that's why we're calling it Too Little Too Late. Because it's just a bunch of another like word salad, throw out some things that sound okay if you don't think about it. You just like nod your head and you're like, sure, sounds good. But then you're like, wait a second. It's all just random, meaningless. So I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, this is an article from the California Globe going through it. It's titled, Let's Unpack Governor Newsom's New Executive Order to Harden Homes Against Wildfire. Following his DC visit with President Donald Trump last week, Governor Gavin Newsom issued a new executive order Thursday aimed at hardening homes located in areas with high wildfire risk by implementing extreme new regulations, including not allowing most flammable things allowed within 5 feet of buildings in such areas. Side note, not really related to what we're talking about. The meeting was supposed to be a half an hour. It went for an hour and a half. Gavin Newsom came back and said he was going to sign the bill regarding legal aid for illegal migrants or illegal immigrants, but something about like he caved on one issue. I can't remember what it was. Oh, as long as they're not protecting violent criminals. So he kind of caved on that one issue, and I feel like Trump probably bent his ear a little bit and was like I'll help you out with all federal aid, but you got to send the violent criminal illegal immigrants back to their country, and you can't block it. So anyway, article goes on to say the devastation of Pacific Palisades and Altadena aren't new lessons, Governor Gavin Newsom said as he signed a suite of new orders Thursday hardening homes located in areas with high wildfire risk. The article goes on to say Governor Newsom is adding regulations onto home building as well as local requirements. Current state and local environmental regulations to prevent controlled burns are what contribute to the Pacific Palisades, Altadena, and part of Los Angeles burning down, and the previous fires in recent years. Newsom claims the state has more than doubled investments in wildfire prevention and landscape resilience efforts, providing more than $2.5 billion in wildfire resilience since 2020, with an additional $1.5 billion from the 2024 climate bond to be committed beginning this year for proactive projects that protect communities from wildfire and promote healthy natural landscapes. Of note, Newsom says since 2021, the state has made strategic investments in at least 61 fuels reduction projects near the Palisades and Eaton fire perimeters through projects treated over 14,500 acres. Newsom also says his administration has invested $2 billion to support CAL FIRE operations, a 47% increase since 2018, which has helped build CAL FIRE from 5,829 positions to 10,741 in the same period. And the administration is now implementing shorter work weeks for state firefighters. All right. So as far as I get from it, it doesn't go into whether they're going to do more forest management. It has nothing to do with whether they're going to clean up underbrush. It has nothing to do with whether they're going to do anything about water. So basically, he's created these zones that are now high risk. He's put more neighborhoods in these high risk zones for fire, and he's also required that certain building materials in those zones cannot be flammable within 5. So it's not doing much to change. It's not going to help right now. There's some things like this executive order right now is not going to do anything to save the Palisades or Los Angeles. And I'm not sure it's really going to do anything in general. Like he just created more zones, which to me, if you're creating more high risk zones, we already have an insurance problem in California. So if you've now put more neighborhoods in these higher risk zones that now have to abide by these new executive order regulations, the insurance company is going to go look at those and be like, oh, you're in a high risk area. We're going to have to double your insurance premium. Sorry. Thank Gavin Newsom. So what are your thoughts?
Right. Which I think the article goes into that, or at least another one does, where and I'm trying to I don't understand this executive order, and I'm not going to pretend like I understand fire management either. So I just apologize if I like just ramble on about things that I really don't know what I'm talking about right now. But I am confused about this because I couldn't figure out if this expands through all of California or just these areas that were just hit. And when it comes to rebuilding, I was confused about that. But yeah, I'm looking at that going, okay, if we're like upping the risk factor in these areas, putting them into an even higher zone, then yes, that's going to be insurance increase, and insurance companies are already leaving and dropping people. That's been even like a big thing where I live, on our local Facebook group for the last year. So people have been talking about their insurance has dropped them for X, Y, and Z. And I mentioned at the beginning, I'm having like allergy issues. I live in an older area, in an established city that has a lot of vegetation. And I know people are constantly where the area that I live in, I'm very close to what was 90-ish years ago, a huge avocado farm and citrus farms. And a lot of people still have avocado trees to this day, like where homes now have been built on what was the avocado farm. And they have these avocado trees that are getting up there in age. They're 80, 90 years old. And basically, a lot of people are being told you need to remove your orange trees and your avocado trees, and you have to, within 30 days or whatever, or we're dropping your insurance. Just random stuff like that. And if insurance companies are saying these are fire risk issues, then California should be thinking about all that vegetation that we keep talking about that we want them to manage. If an insurance company isn't going to insure a home over vegetation on their property, then that means that the vegetation on the land out there where there's actually land that's not, someone's personal house property, their residential property, then there's fire risks there, extreme fire risks. Like, so why are we pretending like managing those areas isn't important? Surely, if they're going to drop my insurance because of my 80-year-old avocado tree, then the reservoir that's full of dead vegetation and dry, just like 2 houses from me, must be an incredible fire risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why is this not the priority?
Yeah, I found the part that you were talking about in the article about how designating more areas as wildfire risk areas or higher wildfire risk areas. They're going to receive, Californians expect they receive in the mail either drastic fire insurance premium increases or fire insurance cancellations. And then, as we've already brought up, the MIA insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, who you can't get a hold of, has done none of it or nothing to help poor Californians who are stuck like with these fly by night, like online home insurance that will accept them. And then as soon as something like this happens, they're going to run for the hills. And then you're forced into California's fair insurance program, which is not the best option. I wouldn't trust any insurance that's backed by the state, especially California. So,
Right.
it's one of those things where it's just like they just don't see like the implications of their actions, which is so short-sighted. And it's not surprising for Gavin Newsom to sign something like this, because it's quite literally like it's all fluff. It is all just posturing. It's all like he's saying all these things like about urban firestorms and climate change and the drier temperatures and this, that, and the other thing, but it's all fluff, and like none of it addresses really what the issue is
Right.
about clearing out tree. Like it doesn't really get to the point. And it's not like he's listened to anybody on the ground in Los Angeles to be like, hey, here's what you can do as governor to fix a lot of these issues. Like you have immense power in California because there are so many executive agencies, that with the stroke of a pen, you can order a lot of these agencies to do certain things. And he missed the mark on this one, that's for sure. Like just because he put this 5-foot buffer zone, ember resistant zone, and he named more places wild, it's like, cool, thanks, man. Thanks for letting us know there's more areas that are wildfire risk or higher risk. Why are we not doing anything to address why they're high wildfire risk, and not going like, maybe we should address that so it's not a high wildfire risk? um so it's not surprising for Gavin Newsom in terms of his political career, and none of this will do anything. I don't think anything will. It will add more regulations, and more people will probably get dropped from insurance because of it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care. It's just it's at this point it'll just be something he can say he did, and that he put it like, it's just another thing he can tout and wave at people. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really get to the root issue, and he hasn't solved the problem, which is kind of, at this point, we're almost halfway through his second term. That's Gavin Newsom. We've just come to accept that this is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's very good at the preening and the posturing for the cameras, and he knows when there's a political opportunity and he knows what to say. But when it comes to really getting stuff done, he never gets anything done in terms of what really needs to get done. By the way, I wonder how that whole jobs thing was going that he was supposed to be touting to red counties. I wonder if he's
Oh, geez.
finished that up. Remember that whole binder? He had a whole binder of stuff.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was supposed to come out last month. Yeah. Remember, we were like, well, why not now?
Yeah, what are
Like,
you waiting for? You?
talk like, if you have it there, why are we waiting on it?
Yeah.
But, no, back to the fire thing, though. Um, they pointed out, like, because I think part of this is they can't plant certain plants within 5 feet of their home, but it was, like, showing but all these trees it on their property actually did survive the fire. So
Mhm.
how is whether it's 20 feet, 5 feet, like, okay, what? But I don't think we know officially how this fire or all these fires started yet. I don't think that generally takes time. But regardless of how it started, whether literally somebody poured gasoline up and down the neighborhood and lit a match, or if it was just a spark or a car fire, who knows? Arson, I don't know. Whatever it
Mhm.
was, whatever caused this fire, that that doesn't change the fact that there was no water. The reservoir was empty. There was a bunch of the fire trucks were, I guess, not repaired and in working condition. They're just like sitting in the lot with they need some work done, and firefighter shortage,
Mhm.
and the fire hydrants not working. Whether it was because of gravity or climate change or electricity or no water, whatever, all those issues contributed to the fire being much, much worse than necessary. Those are the issues that need to be addressed here, not
Mhm.
certain building materials within 5 feet of the front, the back, the structure, whatever. That's like not the issue here. And so again, this just feels like, last year when there was oodles and oodles of reparations bills that were being presented to Newsom, and I think he only ended up signing a handful of them. And one of them was an apology letter. They were throwing out the idea of a statue, and I think that didn't actually make it. It was just like an apology letter, as if that's supposed to make everything better for anybody's families who were in slavery in America. And people where they want land, they want money, and Newsom was like, "Well, the best I can do for you is an apology letter." And this isn't even an apology letter. It's just like, "Well, I'll just sign an executive order that does nothing, and we'll call it a day." And my hands are washed to this. Carry
Yep.
on.
Now it's back to the local agencies to do it. I did receive a tip. I don't know if this is true or not, but I did receive a tip that as of probably next week, Kristen Crowley, the fire chief, is going to be out in Los Angeles.
I did hear that.
So that a little bird told me that one. I don't know. That's what some people are. Source told me from the inside that she might be out by next week. So if
But is
she's
this
not,
even her fault?
I don't. It's not really her
It's just
fault. I think we've done enough. We showed that video about how dilapidated and poor condition a lot of the fire stations are. Like it's clear they keep saying like, oh, they spent more money or whatever, how they want to justify their magic numbers or whatever. But the proof is in the pudding. Like you just look at these fire stations that are falling apart and have black mold in them, and you go, okay, you're not taking care of Los Angeles firefighters. Like that's very evident. You don't care about the people on the front line. So
which is maybe why there's a shortage. Or we've
probably why there's a
obviously
shortage.
on one of our reels on Instagram has gotten quite a lot of heat.
Mhm.
It's caught a lot of smoke, and people have all their opinions. Some are they say, I was a firefighter, or I worked in this sector, or I did this, and here's the issue. But we have heard over and over again that they're not hiring more firefighters, and thus these firefighters, they work crazy overtime, and then of course they get paid crazy overtime, but they're worked to the bone. And like, you can
Mhm.
only work so long before you need rest, anybody, regardless. And of course, actual firefighting is such a, I mean, that's a lot of like physical labor. They're not just like sitting at a desk reading reports or whatever. And so yeah, your body eventually, you have to sleep. You cannot
Yeah.
perform so well. And so if that's one of the issues, then yeah, we need to hire more firefighters. But also maybe we need less firefighters if we take care of the vegetation, which we keep talking about. Take care of this vegetation, and like, put the goats to work. Hire the freaking goats to eat the vegetation.
Yep. Goats are free. All you have to do is feed them. So it's a pretty cheap, pretty cheap salary for goats. Um, I was gonna say something, but I forgot now. Um, Anyway, something about the firefighters, and it just kind of totally blanked my mind because uh, speaking of Los Angeles, and this is a good segue into our next topic. See, that was smooth.
So smooth
That's
that
a
you had to point it out.
that was a pro move there. That was a pro podcast move right there, ladies and gentlemen. Um, all right, this is from SF Gate. This has been news for the past week or so. It's title Facing Backlash Over $500,000 Salary, LA's Wildfire Recovery Czar agrees to work for free. This was actually as of yesterday, so this is really brand new. Steve Soberoff, a longtime fixture in Los Angeles civic life, who is now serving as chief recovery officer for the city's wildfire comeback, won't take a salary after facing backlash over plans to pay him $500,000. He would have been paid through charitable donations, not with taxpayer money. So it sounds like a lot. But wait till you hear this. Soberoff had defended the proposed salary of $500,000 for 3 months of work. Let me just say that again. $500,000 for 3 months of work. So he
And
was on pace for
it's
$2
never
million.
3 months of work. It's always double what they quote you.
Oh, guy's going to make a killing. I mean, you think he's going to be, you think the recovery is going to be done in 3 months? He's going to be like, all right, that's it. We did the recovery. We're all done.
February of next year will be literally like, how's that recovery going?
Yeah, it'll be like 3 years from now and they'll still be paying him. Because as I say, in his expertise as a residential property developer made him worth the price. But after criticisms mounted from elected officials and residents, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass reversed course over the weekend and said Soberoff would receive no compensation. All right, goes on to say he was initially tasked with leading the first phase of the city's wildfire rebuilding effort. On Friday, though, Bass suggested that the scope of his work could be diminished, saying he would focus primarily on rebuilding the Palisades Historic Business District. Soberoff disputed that notion, saying he's regularly interacting with federal agencies. And I think this was Rick Grinnell who called this out originally, or he called out the next
so.
story that we're going to.
Or at least he's the one that brought attention.
He brought it to attention.
Spotlight.
He rang the alarm bells on it. It goes on to say it wasn't clear which charitable organizations would have covered his pay. Los Angeles City Council member Monica Rodriguez, who sits on the committee overseeing the recovery, called the proposed salary obscene. And I found it fishy, and I think you agree with me that they're not telling you what nonprofits were going to pay.
Yes. I think maybe the creepy 22-year-old exposed something about the nonprofit.
Maybe they're afraid that some creepy 22-year-olds in Doge might uncover like where that money is coming from.
No, so
Like,
this whole thing is really weird to me because I would have thought, which this tells you how much I don't know, I would have thought it was up to each individual homeowner to have their property cleaned up and then like who they want to hire to rebuild if they want to rebuild. Like I would have thought that was, I didn't know that we were bringing in some developer who's in charge of the commercial, the residential, the cleanup, that confused me. Okay, so then I appreciate that they were like, we're not doing this with tax dollars. I mean, everyone would have been biting everyone's heads off, literally. I mean, at that point, like extreme, because there's no tax dollars left. I mean, this is just a giant mess. And so I appreciated that it was like, well, it'll be raised through charitable donations, but yes, who, how, what, how did we come up with 500,000 as the money, as the figure? Like, is someone backing this, and who's backing this? Where's this? Like, that's all weird and crazy. But now he's taking $0. That doesn't make sense to me either, because why would you work for free?
probably because of bad publicity. I want to look this up real quick, and I probably should have before the show. Soberoff net worth. Let's look this up.
What are you looking up?
His net worth.
Okay.
If they have his net worth.
But even if you have a big net worth, doesn't mean that you have to do something for free.
No, I'm just my curiosity is because if people are talking about like how Elon Musk is a, billionaire or whatever working for the government as like a special government employee, but Elon Musk isn't taking any salary for what I know. Um, at least according to Grok, it says he's not taking any salary. So um, I'm interested to see what his is worth. So it's like they're fine with certain amounts, like they're fine with
That's always funny to me. What is the minimum amount that they like stop being okay with? You know, that's where I'm always like, well, he's worth 232 million. Okay, I'm not, but let's just say I were worth 20 million. Like that's well, even okay, I'm not even worth like whatever. I'm just your average person. Very average person over here with like I don't have an income. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So we're a single income family with 4 kids, okay? And compared to poverty, I'm rich. I'm not rich. And I live in Orange County. And compared to Orange County, I'm definitely like bottom barrel over here. Okay. So compared to somebody homeless sleeping on the streets, I haven't made absolutely. I have like, who wouldn't want my life if that's your life? So that's where I'm always so confused about when they come at like, well, they're worth that much money. And therefore, so it's like, well, what is your minimum? If I was worth 20 million, and or earning 20 million a year or something, like does that mean that I am responsible for X, Y, and Z? Now I should be. We should all be generous with what we have. Absolutely. Sorry, you probably found the answer. I'm just like going off those random tangents.
No,
But
no,
I'm
keep
always
going because
wondering what
I'm
their
still
like
looking. I'm
their
interested now. This is like
their
live.
minimum, is of like because like I said, compared to a homeless person, I have it made. I'm sitting here with like a heated blanket on my lap in my single family home. I had lunch. I had breakfast. I will have dinner after this podcast. I'm fed. I have a bed that I sleep in a temperature controlled home. I don't, all my needs are met. And again, compared to a homeless person, their needs are not met. It's cold right now here. It's supposed to rain tonight. Like a homeless person out there, they're probably hungry. They don't know when they're going to get their next meal. They don't know what dry place they're going to find to sleep in. They're going to be cold. They're going to like it's not going to be comfortable. And so I'm just saying, like, I understand that in comparison, I have everything. Now, compared to a multimillionaire, I'm poor, I'm broke, I got nothing. So that's why I'm always just curious about when they're like, I don't trust a millionaire or a billionaire who X, Y, and Z, and they should work for free, and they should. But it's like, what's your level here? What is your comparison? Where's it at? Did you find his network?
No, every time you Google them or go on DuckDuckGo, it's all about this story. So I have to do some more research. But yeah, it's kind of like with Bernie Sanders talking about how he thinks billionaires are oligarchs, but he's worth like $12 million. And it's like that's wealth that like most people can never imagine in their life. So where's the cutoff of like what an oligarch is?
Right. Like why Bernie would be fine with $20 million. Why?
But he won't think he's Elon Musk. So
no. What is the guy's name? Steve what?
Soberroff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Well, the story doesn't.
He's a developer.
Yeah, he's a developer for Soberoff Partners. And I was trying to find out like what the worth of that is because that might give you a better idea. So we'll have to do more digging. We tried to do some live research and it didn't pan out. All right, but the story keeps going. This is from Breitbart. This literally came out today. So again, we got a lot of breaking news on today's episode. Former lead recovery consultants at Haggerty firm hired by Karen Bass pleaded guilty to stealing disaster funds.
Of course they did.
2 former disaster recovery experts at Haggerty Consulting, which LA Mayor Karen Bass appointed to lead rebuilding efforts after the recent wildfires, pleaded guilty in 2022 and 2023 to defrauding New York City of Hurricane Sandy relief funds. Walter Melnick, which, Hurricane Sandy, I actually was in Jersey when Hurricane Sandy hit, and it was pretty bad. Walter Melnick, who had been hired as a contractor for Evanston, Illinois-based Haggerty consulting firm, was accused in 2022 of having claimed lodging reimbursements to which he was not entitled and making false statements to investigators. Another then Haggerty consultant, Mark O'Mara, was accused of claiming more than $250,000 in reimbursements to which he was not entitled and trying to destroy the evidence. Both pleaded guilty
Tom
after reaching
Girardi?
plea agreements. What's that?
Tom Girardi. Is it like? Isn't this
Tom
he's in
Girardi?
trouble for what?
What about Tom Girardi, the attorney?
Yeah, isn't he in trouble for something similar, like keeping victims?
His one of his things was he won a huge settlement from an airline company for all the people who died on it. It was like a huge class action, and then he like kept most of the money.
Okay.
Which, fun fact, you're not supposed to do as an attorney. He just kind of shifted that money around to
We
pay
can
other
talk about
people.
so many things attorneys aren't supposed to do, but that's not
Yeah.
what tonight's episode is about.
That's not what we're going to be talking about when you're, it's very, it's very important as an attorney to make sure your books are clean and that you're doing the right thing with your money and trust fund. But I'll just leave it right there. The article goes on to say Los Angeles awarded Haggerty Consulting the contract to lead rebuilding after a presentation behind closed doors. Oh, shocker. So much for that transparency and democracy. There were apparently two other bidders. The amount of the Haggerty contract with LA has not been disclosed. The Los Angeles Times reported Friday. Chief Recovery Officer Steve Soberoff told Breitbart News last month that there would be a competitive bidding process and the firm chosen would function as an owner's rep to oversee projects. Well, it doesn't look like there was an open process because it was behind closed doors and they got the contract and nobody knows why they got it. So they hired a firm that is known for stealing disaster funds. Well done, Los Angeles. You're just killing it. Paying the recoveries are $500,000.
Name is something Democrat politicians in California hate more than transparency. Trick question. Nothing.
I don't know. Name something they love more than rewarding their political buddies because they need to pay back their political buddies. And there's no accountability in California because who's going to rat you out?
Body count, so they have to pay each other to keep quiet or something.
Exactly. Yeah, doing really well. And you know what? It's kind of funny that Trump, we talked about this, that Trump kind of called all of this with his press conference in the Palisades, where he was kind of calling him out for like, you're going to do this, you're going to hire these contractors and you give out these contracts that are going to cost the taxpayer like way more money than they should. And it's like, he ain't wrong. He called it a long time ago. So, all right. Moving on to our next topic. We're kind of rapid fire tonight because we have so much stuff to talk about. This one I found interesting, and it involves one of our guests who was on just a couple months ago, newly elected Assemblyman Jeff Gonzalez. The Latino Caucus. So there's the Latino Caucus in Sacramento. They won't allow newly elected Latino Republican legislators into their caucus. And there's a video.
I don't think they'll allow any, newly or not, right?
Yeah, they won't. No, it won't. So because there's more, I guess, well, there's more now because several flipped seats like Jeff Gonzalez. They were like, hey, can we be a part of your Latino caucus up in Sacramento? And they were like, no. And they were like, why not? And they're like, because we don't like you. You're icky. That's
creepy.
Not what they really said. You're creepy. In the words of Chuck Schumer, you're creepy. All right, but there's a video, so let's watch that. I think this is the head of the Latino Caucus in Sacramento. Not Ashley Zavala, the reporter, is talking to her. So
it's not about not letting them in or barring them. That's not the case. It is a legislative Latino. It's a Democratic caucus. So just as I wouldn't ask as a Democrat, even though I'm Latina, to be a part of the Republican caucus, we don't share values in some regards.
The mission of the California Latino Legislative Caucus, it doesn't really mention anything necessarily democratic. It says it's to identify, promote, and advocate on behalf of the professional, educational, social, political, and cultural interests of the Latino community. But I guess now moving forward, with the stance, should we just be more clear that this is a group that is more geared toward and focused on democratic policies and elevating democratic Latinos?
Sure, we can absolutely do that, and I think we will. I mean, everything is very fluid this time. Obviously, we went through an election that we realized, we have to stand strong on our values. And this is one thing, whether you're a progressive Democrat or a mod Democrat, we believe in one thing, and that is supporting immigrant communities and not othering them, not dehumanizing them, and standing firm against many of these unconstitutional actions by the federal government.
All right. So that was her explanation, is that they don't adhere to our values, which is why they can't be a part of our caucus. I did send it to you literally like an hour before Ashley Zavala then tweeted that, let's see, this is the tweet. New after Democrats would not allow them to join the California Latino Legislative Caucus, Republicans are forming their own group, the California Hispanic Legislative Caucus. Co-chairs include Senator Suzette Martinez and Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez. And there's a video, and maybe we follow up next week with that video. But this was so like last minute, it was kind of funny to literally more breaking news. I found this funny because full disclosure, my wife is Hispanic. She grew up in Mexico. So I'm very, I know I'm not Latino, but I am married to a Latino, so I am close to this issue. And I found this issue odd because they don't represent our values. And it seems like such a narrow view of what, and it's almost insulting. And if my wife ever came on the podcast, which she never will, she would agree with me in the sense that they think all Latino voters think one way, like this one giant monolith of this is what Latinos care about. And they list off all these things about immigrants and dehumanizing, and it's all those democratic ideals. But in reality, they're losing the point of what Latinos values are in terms of maybe they care about the price of gas. Maybe they care about why there's too many taxes. Maybe they care about regulations. Maybe they care about the fact that the roads are horrible condition. There's a lot more issues there. To me, it just seems so dehumanizing to think that the Latinos as a voting bloc are one monolith. And it's the same for Asian Americans, Black Americans, to think just because you're a certain race or skin color that you have to think along these lines. And to her, it's abhorrent to be I can't believe there are Latinos who are Republican and don't agree with our values. And it's well, maybe they were elected because they stand for other values that are more important to the voters rather than these narrow issues or social justice issues that you keep pushing. So I think they kind of look stupid doing this because they're not really being inclusive, since they're supposed to be the party of inclusivity. But that's just my 2 cents. So you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So the one issue that she listed, she's like, we don't share the same values. Immigration is really important to us. I think immigration is important to all of us. And I think you and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure you and I agree that we're not against immigration. We don't like mass open border immigration. We want some, law and order and to come through legally and stuff. But to say we care about immigration, okay, cool. But what does that mean to you? Because once they're here, and they're still people who have different values and needs. And so, okay, cool. You care about immigration. So do I. But now let's talk about what are we doing with these people once they're here who they don't necessarily have homes or families to go to, sponsors to go to, or even jobs, or their kids don't have schools, and maybe English isn't their first language, and they need assistance with some things. So let's talk about how we're going to deal with immigration. You can't just throw out just you don't care about immigration. Well, I do care about immigration. You say you care about immigration, but what does that mean to you? And so that's just such a wild, well, we care about immigration. That doesn't mean anything. Like I think we can all say we care about pregnant women, and that can mean something different to everybody, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's just like, well, I care about pregnant women.
Yeah. And what are you going to say to that?
Like, and whereas, you know, I'm pro-life, and I'm gonna be like, let's help her and help her, whether she wants to keep her baby or adopt her baby out. Like, let's help this pregnant woman and her unborn child. And a liberal person's probably going to be like, well, I want her to have access to an abortion. Okay, but like we could be talking about two different things when we say like we both care about pregnant women, we both care about immigration.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a conversation about that. You can't just throw out I care about immigration, I care about money. But that, what does that mean? I care about money that I think it's bad, or I care about money that I want more. Like, it's
Yeah.
just her response was just ignorant. That's
Well, yeah, it was just like it was word salads, gobbledygook, political gobbledygook, because it's like, again, you're putting your supposed constituency in a box, and you think they all think the same, which is insulting to believe that they can't have independent thought and think of things other. Like, it's like, okay, well, sure, we care about immigration, but you have to care about immigration the way we care about immigration, and you have to subscribe to these certain set of values. And there may be Latino voters in California who care about immigration, but not the way Democrats care about immigration. They may be more worried about immigration and illegal immigration. They may be worried about what's going on at the border and fentanyl and all that stuff. Like, we had Jorge Ventura on last week. It is a humanitarian crisis at the border, what's happening. I mean, some of those stories are still heartbreaking to think about, and going back and listening to them, they're just so sad. And people could be worried about that issue. And this could be a good move by Kate Sanchez and Suzette Martinez to create a new legislative caucus for Hispanics by saying, like, okay, we're going to represent Hispanic voters in California, but we're going to focus on stuff that, like, Hispanics probably care about, and that, they care about the price of goods here in California, how expensive it is, and safety and crime and all those things that affect them day to day, and that public schools, and where they're sending their kid, what school they're sending their kids to, and stuff like that. Like, those are issues, those are those kitchen table politics that I think, like, they're going to address, and it's going to help in the long run, because they're going to be speaking to Californians, and it's not
Yeah.
just, we're just speaking to our narrow version of what we think a Latino voter is, because we're Democrats and we think you all have to think like us. It's okay, we're speaking to you as Californians. We're not looking at you based on skin color or who you are or what your race is. We see you as Californians, and we're here to make your life better.
100%.
So
Yes, they're all people.
I think it could end up being better for them.
And yeah, and like, and once a migrant is here, whether they're here legally or illegally, they're here.
Mm-hmm.
They are a person just like you and I, and those people care about where their next meal is going to come from. We care about where, we care about literally the same things. We're going to care about how are we going to put gas in our car? How are we going to feed our children? How are we going to feed ourselves, pay the bills? We all care about those same basic human necessities, whether we're here legally or not. And so to just be so narrow-minded and, well, we care about immigration.
Yeah.
No, you don't. No, you just care about words. That's all you literally you just care about words.
You care about posturing. Well, I think it's going to end up backfiring.
Another too little, too late. This episode is appropriately named.
Yeah, another perfect example. Too little, too late. You could have allowed them in, and you could have sat down and had discussions with them, but instead you were so, like, hard-headed and stubborn. You're like, no, we're not even going to talk to them. We're not going to let them into, it's like Mean Girls. Like, you can't sit with us.
Yeah.
You're wearing pajamas or you're wearing sweats and it's Wednesday. I've never seen that movie. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway. All right. We're going to end on a lighter note today, because I thought this was really funny. This is from the Daily Mail, and I will preface this with, it is completely satire. So I don't want the rage comments of, like, how stupid this is.
Haters are going to say it's true.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, it's stupid, try it out, like, FAFO, like, if you know that acronym, what that stands for, like, don't get angry. It's satire. It's a joke. Um, this is from the Daily Mail. It says Danes launch bid to buy California and turn Disney World into Hans Christian Andersen land in retaliation for Donald Trump's Greenland threats. Well, first off, I think the Danes need to do some homework because Disney World is not in California. So, right off the bat,
I was gonna say that. I was like, how dare you? Like, this is Disneyland.
yeah, I saw that title. And I was like, that's why I clicked on it, because I was like, Disney World,
Disney World.
wrong state. Article goes on to say Danish campaigners are proposing to buy California from the United States and turn it into a territory of Denmark in response to Donald Trump's bid to acquire Greenland. The Denmarkification campaign says it seeks to crowdfund $1 trillion to purchase the U.S. state, after which it plans to instill it with Danish values and make the most of its sunny weather and resources.
Can we please edit this episode and add what's that movie from the 90s? So I can't think of it. Where they're like, $1 million.
Oh, Austin Powers.
Austin Powers.
You're like, $1 million. And then everyone laughs at him like, just put that in right there. $1 trillion. Promises include renaming the state New Denmark and turning its Disney resort into Hans Christian Andersen land, complete with a Viking helmet wearing Mickey Mouse. The page argues that Trump may, in fact, welcome the sale of the Golden State, saying that he isn't exactly California's biggest fan, which is true, and pointing out that he has feuded with California leaders, the likes of Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris, for years. There is a actual slideshow, which is kind of funny. Why not share it?
So
Let's do
dumb.
it. Hey, I said we're going to end on a lighter note, and here we are.
So dumb.
So here is part of it. It says, why California? And you have the little Danish mermaid right in front of the
I'm kind of for the redo of Disneyland into Mickey Mouse wearing Viking helmets, and maybe we could make the submarines their Viking ships and they fall off the flat earth instead. I'm here for this.
It might be an improvement over the Peter Pan ride, which I'm sorry to anybody who loves the Peter Pan ride. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it. It's literally a 30-second ski ride over a paper mache Peter Pan world. I don't get it. Anyway, that's my Disneyland rant. It goes, why California? Sunshine galore. Let's face it, Denmark's weather is, well, let's just say it's cozy. California has 300 days of sunshine. Imagine swapping your rain boots for flip-flops. Tech dominance, getting an extra bunch of tech bros. Great. It is what every democracy needs. Avocado toast forever. California grows 90% of the U.S.'s avocados. That's right. We'll never run out of avocado toast. It must be hard to get avocados in Denmark. They must be really expensive. To protect the free world, most people say we have the best freedom. Colossal freedom. Disneyland will rename it Hans Christian Andersen Land. Mickey Mouse and a Viking helmet. Yes, please. So the tremendous plan. I like how they're kind of digging at Donald Trump here with the tremendous. It's colossal, beautiful. Crowdfunding goal of 1 trillion, give or take a few billion. That's just 200,000 kroner from every Dane. Skip a few lattes and you're golden. We'll send our bestest negotiators, Lego executives, and the cast of Borgen. I don't know what Borgen is, but I assume it's popular there. It is in the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of our nation. So California will become New Denmark, Los Angeles, more like Los Angeles. It has weird things that I guess are Danish. Danish values will bring hoogie to Hollywood, bike lanes to Beverly Hills, and organic schmorbread to every street corner. Rule of law, universal health care, and fact-based politics might apply. So,
okay, but last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about how California can't even succeed from the nation, and
now Denmark is trying to buy it.
Now Denmark's going to buy us, but not. And
I'm
I don't know. I just feel like we're gonna get called out for this, and so I just keep. It's not real, you guys. I'm laughing because it is the stupidest thing we've ever talked about.
yeah, it might be the dumbest thing we've ever talked about, but it's incredibly entertaining. By the way, if I fell down the I think that's how you pronounce it, Hoogie rabbit hole when we moved into our new house because I was all about like
I know you bought a
it,
book,
I bought a book about the Hoogie lifestyle,
and then
and
you promptly watched Mean Girls.
then I was watching Mean Girls while reading my Hoogie book about making your home very comforting, according to Denmark and the Danes. All right, so just like California seceding from the Union, uh, this isn't going to happen either, but it's kind of fun. It's funny to this is all just a big practical joke on President Trump, poking fun at him.
Which
So
is funny, and
come
we
on,
can
we
laugh
can
at
all
all
laugh. It's
currently.
funny. They said the colossalist, the bestest negotiators. It's funny.
It was
Good on
funny.
the Danes.
Remember, was it 8 or so years ago when Queen Elizabeth offered to take America back under Britain rule? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah, they're just teasing. It's okay. Not everything has to be some big, showdown or something like that. It doesn't
no.
have to be some big rage bait thing. It's funny. All right. So that's our show for the day. Any final thoughts on Denmark or anything else?
I want to go there.
Never been to Denmark.
I haven't. Either.
Is that the one with windmills and wood shoes?
Are you thinking Holland?
I get them confused. They're all that Northern European. I don't know what's up there.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful
I don't know.
architecture. No, I'm not going to pretend like I know much about Denmark, but it's on my list just because from one photo I saw, I was like, oh, I must visit here someday. And I told you before we hopped on, I'm like 1% Danish per my DNA results.
And avocado toast must be
And I have an
$20.
avocado tree in my yard.
Yeah, Danish, and you have avocados.
I was just
You're like
flexing. I have avocados.
You're like their ideal person.
I don't even eat them. I just have them. Just grow them.
Just throw them away.
My dog eats them.
Is that good for dogs?
Okay, so I have a golden retriever. Golden retrievers can eat a lot more, and they'll say it's not good for dogs. But so growing up, okay, sorry, this has nothing to do with anything. Growing up, my parents, I mentioned where I live is like it used to be avocado land. They live on what was the avocado grove and have their very old trees. We had a golden retriever growing up, and we would joke that she could hear an avocado drop. And she would like bark at the gate until we let her out, and she'd run to the side yard and she'd grab the avocado or a few, and she'd come back and she would bury them like bones. And then she would eat them. And I think you're not supposed to give them too much, and they're probably not good for small dogs, but they're allegedly really good for their coats. Well, then we started to notice her fur was like so pretty and shiny. And then some dog food brand, like as this was happening, they came out with a food that's probably since been recalled and shut down, but it was called Avoderm for dogs. And it was like avocados for your dog's coat and digestion or whatever. And we would like laugh because we're like, oh, she's literally eating them. I only have one tree. My parents have a few, but I only have one tree and it doesn't produce that much. And every so often we see her get avocado and like bury it. And then she'll just kind of carry it around and somewhat eat it. So she doesn't really eat a whole lot of avocados. Okay, sorry. This is the most random episode. Now this story is dumber than
all right. So moral of the story. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Moral of the story is feed your dog lots of avocados.
I have avocados and I'm not sharing them.
She's 2% Danish and has avocados. All right. Good night, everybody. All right. On that note, make sure you subscribe, like, share, review, hit that notification bell to make sure you get updates of when new episodes are coming out. And the best thing to do to support this show that is 100% free is share it with someone else and let them know. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Later. That was a fun episode.
We just lost all of our subscribers.
They're all just like unsubscribe.
They're like, I don't know about this Denmark thing. And then they're like, dogs eating avocados. They're like, no. I'm going to get so much hate. People are like, you're poisoning your dog. Why is your dog outside?
I feel like you gotta, loosen up and talk about other things every once in a while. Then people feel like they get to know you.
Make it personal, but not too personal. And you just laugh. And it's just silly.